Most men find themselves in a familiar pattern. Always texting first, making plans, following up, offering reassurance, explaining, waiting. Eventually, they wonder why she seems distant, uninvolved, or emotionally cold. Here's what often goes unspoken. Women absolutely do initiate. They pursue, they show interest, just not toward men who've inadvertently conditioned them otherwise. When she never reaches out, never moves things forward, never takes initiative toward you, that's not coincidence. It's information. Something in your behavioral patterns has communicated that your attention is constant and therefore unremarkable. Consider this carefully. If she's not initiating, what message did your actions send about your worth? This isn't shallow relationship advice or manipulation tactics. This is a psychological examination of why certain men inspire pursuit while others unknowingly extinguish it. I'm going to explain 7 principles that transform the dynamic, so women shift from leaning back to leaning forward without you chasing, convincing, or performing. If you value emotional intelligence, self-respect, and sustainable relationship dynamics, stay with me through this. Let's begin where most men stumble. Principle 1: Don't reinforce passive behavior. Most men don't recognize they're doing this because it appears generous, patient, and effortful. But psychologically, it's overcompensation and it silently diminishes a woman's motivation to invest. Overcompensation means providing more than circumstances warrant. You respond immediately even when she takes hours. You sustain conversations she barely contributes to. You continue offering attention, reassurance, and effort without indication she's reciprocating. Externally, this resembles interest. To the human nervous system, it registers as imbalance. Here's the common misconception. Men assume increased giving will inspire reciprocation. Actually, it teaches the reverse. Human brains conserve energy naturally. When rewards come without effort, motivation decreases not from malice, but from lack of necessity. She adjusts accordingly. She discovers she can remain passive. She realizes she doesn't need to initiate, escalate, or pursue. She learns your attention remains stable, regardless of her investment level. Once this pattern establishes itself, she doesn't feel drawn toward you. She feels accommodated by you. This explains why passivity increases not from disinterest, but because the environment you established made passivity the most efficient choice. Here's the difficult reality. You didn't attract her passivity, you cultivated it. When effort and reward disconnect, attraction diminishes. Not dramatically. She stops experiencing the tension that creates forward movement. She stops feeling compelled to lean in. She transitions from initiating to merely responding. Change begins when you reconnect effort with access. Your presence becomes responsive rather than constant. When she engages, you're present, grounded, focused, attentive. When she withdraws, you don't chase to restore equilibrium. You allow space to function naturally. This absence isn't punishment, it's contrast. And contrast reactivates awareness. When your presence requires earning, it gains value. When removed, it gets noticed. That gap generates emotional movement. She begins adjusting behavior not because you demanded it, but because the environment shifted. Many men panic here and rush back. Resist that. Discomfort isn't danger, it's data. Stop rewarding what requires nothing from her. Start reinforcing what demands intention. That's how initiative rebuilds without lectures, pressure, or losing composure. Principle 2. Build intrigue through restraint, not games. Most men misunderstand intrigue, confusing it with manipulation. They think it means being vague, inconsistent, or emotionally distant. It doesn't. Genuine intrigue stems from restraint, not deception. The female mind seeks closure. Psychologists identify this as the Zeigarnik effect. Unfinished experiences remain active in the brain. When something feels unresolved, the mind continues engaging with it. This isn't strategy. It's neuroscience. Men eliminate this effect through overexplanation. They communicate excessively. They reveal everything rapidly. They share their background, intentions, availability, and emotional investment early, usually citing honesty. But they're actually removing all tension from the interaction. Certainty feels secure. But security without tension doesn't inspire pursuit. When a woman feels she has you completely understood your interest intentions, availability, nothing remains for her nervous system to engage with. No curiosity. No pull. no reason to move toward you. She doesn't feel intrigued. She feels informed. And informed doesn't chase. This manifests in subtle ways. Conversations that extend to long, texts that explain rather than invite. Emotional clarity offered before attraction has space to develop. Men think they're building connection. They're actually closing the loop prematurely. Intrigue lives in what you don't rush to resolve. It's ending a conversation while energy remains positive. It's not establishing labels before the dynamic warrants it. It's allowing moments to conclude slightly unfinished, so her mind continues working after you're gone. This doesn't mean withholding interest. It means not flooding the space with certainty. Because here's the uncomfortable reality. Certainty destroys desire faster than rejection does. Rejection creates tension. Certainty erases it. When you stop attempting to clarify everything and instead allow room for curiosity, something transforms. She starts questioning internally. She starts wondering about her standing. She starts leaning forward, not from confusion, but because her attention has been captured. Intrigue isn't silence. It's pacing. You don't vanish. You don't perform. You simply stop rushing the resolution. And when you do, the chase doesn't require forcing. It begins forming naturally. Principle 3. Apply brief flirtation. 10 with. One of the quickest ways men diminish attraction is flooding a woman with continuous validation compliments, attention, emotional availability without pause. It feels warm and reassuring, and it quietly eliminates desire. The female nervous system doesn't respond to constant stimulation, it responds to contrast. When validation is uninterrupted, it becomes background noise. Not from ingratitude, but because the brain adapts. Dopamine spikes originate from variation, not saturation. This explains why intermittent reinforcement proves so effective. The presence of reward followed by temporary absence creates anticipation, craving, focus. Most men never establish this rhythm. They flirt continuously. They complement everything. They remain emotionally on constantly, and unknowingly, they remove the mystery that maintains her attention engaged. Nothing remains for her to chase because everything's already being provided. Brief flirtation changes this dynamic. It's short, intentional, self-contained. A confident remark, a momentary eye contact, a grounded compliment, delivered without expectation. 10 Release it. No follow-up. No fishing for reaction. No attached escalation. Then you transition. You discuss something neutral. You recenter. You let the moment pass. That pullback is where the effect occurs. Her nervous system registers the spike, then the decline. The brain dislikes unfinished emotional loops. It wants resolution. It wants the feeling repeated. So she becomes more attentive, more present, more curious about re-engaging that energy. This isn't teasing, it's restraint. Here's where men err. They think mystery means distance. It doesn't. Mystery means controlled expression, knowing when to stop, even when continuing feels good. A simple example. You say that look suits you with calm certainty. You smile, then pivot the conversation. No hovering, no explanation, no reassurance. Now the moment belongs to her. She replays it. She wonders about its meaning. She looks for the next opportunity, not because you withheld affection, but because you didn't over-deliver it. That's the distinction most men miss. Mystery isn't silence. It's restraint. When your attention arrives in clean, deliberate bursts, instead of a constant stream, it gains weight. And weight pulls someone forward without any chasing required. Principle 4. Require her to earn your availability. Your time is your most valuable asset, what most men give away thoughtlessly. Once spent, it's irretrievable. You don't recover it. Yet many men treat their time as having no cost, no weight, no consequence. And women perceive this immediately. When a man is always available, always reachable, always prepared to reorganize his life, the moment she reaches out, his presence loses significance. Not because she doesn't appreciate him, but because the nervous system doesn't register abundance as valuable. It registers scarcity. This isn't dating strategy. It's biology. The brain's reward system responds more intensely when something desirable is uncertain or limited. That's why rare experiences feel exciting. That's why exclusive access creates anticipation. And that's why a man whose time isn't on demand feels more compelling than one who is. Men undermine this by being overly accessible. She texts last minute, and he clears his schedule. She hints at plans, and he jumps. She gives minimal effort, and he still appears fully. Over time, the message crystallizes. His time costs nothing. And when something costs nothing, it's treated accordingly. Making her earn your availability doesn't mean being cold or unavailable. It means being intentional. It means your schedule reflects a life that matters to you first. If she reaches out without having invested recently, you don't rush to accommodate. You respond when it fits your rhythm. If she suggests something last minute after days of silence, you don't bend your structure to meet it. You stay grounded. That boundary accomplishes something important. It signals that access to you isn't automatic. It has context. It has standards. Here's what most men miss. Effort should be rewarded, but only when it's genuine. When she plans ahead, when she shows thoughtfulness, when she adjusts her schedule for you. That's when you appear fully. You enjoy the moment. You let her feel that her investment created connection. The nervous system learns through contrast. She starts associating effort with access, initiative with reward, and without words being spoken, urgency forms. Because now your time isn't something she can access whenever she wants. It's something she needs to secure. That's the transformation. If your time costs nothing, your presence means nothing. But when your availability is anchored in self-respect, it becomes something she wants to lock in before someone else does. Principle 5. Suggest action without pursuing. Many women would initiate more frequently if one obstacle wasn't blocking them. Fear. Not fear of you, but fear of perception, being judged, rejected, seeming desperate. That hesitation is legitimate, and most men completely misinterpret it. They assume silence equals disinterest, so they chase harder, push more, and ironically, that pressure confirms her fear because now initiation feels risky instead of natural. The transformation happens when you remove the risk before she acts. This is where permission enters. Permission is not pursuit. It's not asking. It's not convincing. It's a relaxed signal that says, if you step forward, it will be received. Nothing more. Men who chase apply pressure. Men who grant permission create space. The difference is subtle but powerful. Suggesting action means offering a future-oriented opening without attaching urgency or expectation. A light suggestion, a calm invitation that doesn't need immediate resolution. Statements like "text me when you're free" or "next time you're around" reach out accomplish something important psychologically. They pre-approve her initiative. They communicate that reaching out won't be awkward, unwanted, or misread. Now, the door is open, and she knows it. Here's why this works. The nervous system avoids rejection more than it seeks reward. When rejection is removed from the equation, behavior changes. Initiative feels safer. Action feels permitted. And because the idea came from you in a grounded, confident manner, she doesn't feel like she's chasing. She feels like she's responding. That distinction matters. A man who chases tries forcing momentum. A man who plants seeds lets momentum develop. He doesn't rush the outcome. He lets her choose the moment. And when she does, it feels natural because the path was already there. Here's what most men never consider. She initiates when rejection is already removed. Provide clarity without pressure. Direction without demand. And suddenly, the first move doesn't feel like a risk. It feels like the logical next step. Principle 6. Maintain composure when she approaches. This is where most men lose everything they've built right when it starts working. The moment a woman shows clear interest, many men panic internally. She leans in. She touches your arm. She stays close longer than necessary. And instead of staying grounded, Aobe reacts. His tone changes. His focus narrows. His energy spikes. He makes it obvious. This moment matters excessively. That reaction destroys the dynamic faster than disinterest ever could. Attraction doesn't collapse because she moved closer. It collapses because he did. When a man suddenly treats her attention like a rare occurrence, something he's been waiting for, it signals scarcity in him, not value in her. It communicates without words that this interest is unusual for him, that he's unaccustomed to being chosen. Women detect this instantly. Calmness, conversely, signals it suggests that female interest is familiar territory, that you can enjoy it without clinging to it, that her proximity is welcomed but not needed. And that distinction changes everything. Picture a social setting. She chooses the seat beside you, even though there are many others. Most men would immediately shift all attention toward her. They lean in. They lock on. They abandon the rest of the room. A composed man doesn't. He acknowledges her presence. He engages naturally, and then, without withdrawing, he keeps his center. He continues the conversation he was already in. He doesn't chase her attention just because it appeared. That's when something subtle occurs. She starts adjusting. Now she's the one leaning in more, touching again, looking for ways to pull your focus back toward her. Not because you ignored her, but because you didn't orbit her. This taps into a powerful but rarely discussed dynamic: female competition. When a woman senses that your attention isn't easily secured, it activates a competitive drive. Not dramatically, but quietly, internally. She wants to win your focus, to stand out, to feel chosen, but only if you don't give it away too quickly. Here's the reality: most men never accept. Needing her attention is louder than requesting it. When you stay composed, you communicate abundance without saying a word. You let her interest grow instead of smothering it. And that composure doesn't push her away. It pulls her closer because confidence isn't reacting. It's staying centered when you don't need to prove anything. Principle 7. Don't overvalidate, maintain the dynamic. This is where most men make their final error. She initiates. She reaches out first. She plans something. She escalates physically or emotionally. And he assumes the game is finished, so he relaxes in the wrong way. He overvalidates, he starts rewarding effort as if it secured him permanently, and without realizing it, he collapses the very tension that made her move toward him initially. Initiation is not the finish line, it's a checkpoint. When a woman initiates, she's testing whether your value holds once she steps forward. Your response doesn't just acknowledge her. It sets the tone for everything that follows. There are 3 stages women move through when pursuing a man. First is testing low investment. A text, a glance, a light touch. She is checking responsiveness without risk. Second is securing attention. She plans something. She adjusts her schedule. She invests time or effort to see if access to you is consistent. Third is deep pursuit. She initiates regularly. She escalates intimacy. She competes subtly for your focus. Your job is not to rush these stages or collapse them with overvalidation. Most men do exactly that. When she reaches out, they respond with relief instead of composure. They increase effort instead of matching it. They treat her initiative as proof they've been chosen rather than as a moment to stay centered. The correct response is calm acknowledgement paired with restraint. You match her energy or slightly undermatch it. You appreciate effort without treating it as leverage. You reward investment without surrendering your frame. If she plans something thoughtful, you don't gush. You acknowledge it, enjoy it, and remain grounded. You don't start behaving as if she now has you by, cause certainty is where pursuit slows. Once she feels your approval is guaranteed, her nervous system relaxes. And relaxed systems don't chase, they settle. The key is giving her wins without giving away the game. Here's what most men miss. And it's what decides everything long term. The chase doesn't stop when she chooses you. It stops when you lose yourself. Women don't pursue men because of tricks. They pursue men whose identity remains stable under attention. Men who don't inflate or collapse based on interest. Men whose self-respect doesn't fluctuate with validation. When you stay centered before, during, and after her initiation, you become the constant, and she becomes the variable adjusting around you. That's why some men get chased once and others never stop being chased. Final thoughts. If there's one thing I want you to take from this, it's this. Women don't chase because of lines, tactics, or performance. They chase because of who a man is when nothing is guaranteed. They chase men who don't collapse when attention appears. They chase men who don't inflate when validation arrives. They chase men whose identity stays intact, whether a woman leans in or walks away. That's the difference. The men women pursue long-term aren't doing more. They're leaking less neediness, less over-explaining, less emotional panic. They don't rush to secure outcomes because their value isn't dependent on them. And that creates a rare combination: emotional safety and tension. Not safety from predictability, but safety from pressure. Not tension from chaos, but tension from restraint. This was never about tricking women into chasing you. It was about removing the behaviors that quietly teach them not to. When you stop rewarding passivity, when you stop killing intrigue with certainty, when you control your validation, your time, and your reactions, you don't ask to be pursued. You become the kind of man pursuit makes sense around. So remember this, because it's the truth most men never sit with long enough. The men women chase are never chasing anyone, not even validation. If this resonated, if you recognize yourself in any part of this, then do two things. First, subscribe, because this channel is about helping men rebuild leverage, self-respect, and emotional control in a world that quietly strips it away. Second, leave a comment. Tell me which principle hit you the hardest, and if you know a man who's still confusing effort with value, share this with him. Sometimes, one video is enough to create awareness.